so excited to welcome João here today. He is one of our incredible 8 special guests. Welcome to the Q&A. João, would you like to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit more about what you do?
Sure, Lindsay. Well, my name is João de Macedo. I'm a professional surfer and environmental activist from Portugal, specifically in Nazaré.
Nice. We have to ask, can you tell us where Nazaré is and why it's so famous?
Of course, yeah. So Nazaré is a place where some of the biggest waves in the world break. And so it's been a place that has attracted surfers from all over the world, surfers who have dedicated their lives to surfing, because it is a really dangerous and very intense place that requires a lot of preparation. And really, it's a really scary place also. But when you put in all of the work and all of the effort, you can really tap into the ocean in some amazing ways. And so it's become that place where people come to actually or watch the waves. In our case, there is a group of people who, I remember my biggest wave, Lindsay, I took like 30 years to catch it. Can you believe that?
Wow, that's so crazy. That's so funny because I literally have a list of questions that schools have submitted. And the first question is, what's the biggest wave you've ever caught?
Yeah, well, it was about 3 years ago, and I didn't officially measure it. So waves these days, you can actually ask the Guinness World Book of Records to measure it. And it's a long process. And I was just so excited, and my peers were so happy also. So in short, what I asked around, it was around 25 meters. So it was a colossal wave. My personal goal, the world record, is 26.3, I believe, around that. And so wow. I was just really proud of myself to be part of that conversation. And that was a really special moment.
I'm going to ask a question that is not on my list because I just have to ask it. How scary is it riding waves that are 25 meters tall?
It's really scary. The whole day is scary, but when we're riding that wave, we are just so present and just so focused, obviously, in making it, so just we're dealing with all the speed and the chatter and just making sure that our board is in the direction that we want it to be, and just trying to really feel everything, every little bump, everything, so that we can successfully make it, to the edge of the wave and make the ride. But it's just such a memorable, there's such short waves when we think about it. It's maybe 10 seconds would probably be a super long one. So maybe, but it's just so memorable. And it really, then the wave rides with us then for the rest of our lives. I believe that.
Yeah, that is so cool. Okay, so I think the next question, it's useful, and you're wearing a t-shirt that gives us a hint about some of the other work that you do. So maybe we're going to start off with this question around, why is seaweed so important? Like, what does it do?
What I've learned over time, so I'm coming from more of a surfing background, but seaweed has these amazing properties. So seaweed actually contributes to the regulation of the planet because, like so many other plants, it does photosynthesis. So basically it's absorbing our carbon and giving us oxygen. And so by being spread all over the world, seaweed does this on a global scale in all of the oceans. And it's an amazing, very hard working plant that just gives us so much, to regulate the oceans and ultimately regulate the planet's climate.
So cool. And can you tell us a little bit about your project, your seaweed project in Nazaré?
So what we decided to do, and after that wave that I was really happy to share with you guys, I kind of felt that there's some room for surfing to help a little bit this regeneration of the ocean, so that around the world there are these challenges, and that we just have to step up the best we can whenever we can to be part of that solution, that regenerative solution. And so in Nazaré, what we decided to do, and it was a group of friends, and we built a team that started looking for solutions that a small group could contribute and could do. And so what we are doing is we're planting a seaweed farm just south of the giant wave. So it's still really hostile, very turbulent water, so very strong currents. because maybe, I guess, just for everyone, Nazaré has its giant waves because underneath the water is a massive canyon. So a really long canyon, if you can imagine the equivalent of a canyon on land, but it's underneath the waves in the ocean, a really long one and very deep also. So it goes 2 kilometers deep. And so that canyon produces really strong currents. And so we're on the south edge of the canyon. The waves are on the north side. And basically, this seaweed farm and the fact that it's 22 hectares in the ocean, that we can then, with our partners, with our scientific partners, we can measure just how much the seaweed is actually contributing to absorb the carbon. How much biodiversity, once we put one of these, farms in the water, how many, little critters and fish, and how fast does the seaweed grow. And so it allows us to have a place that is almost like a living laboratory.
Wow, that is so cool. And a question that came in that I was really curious to ask you was, what different types of jobs or what different types of roles are there within the seaweed farm? Like, who does what?
Yeah, that I think is a really key question, because part of our project was to work with the local fishing community in a way that we could contribute to innovate within this fishing space. And so I think sometimes surfers misunderstood fishermen. And although personally I love eating fish, so it was impossible to think that the fishermen were only the bad guys. But as we all know, there are some excesses. And just like in the cities, sometimes recycling doesn't happen as well, or that there's a lot of byproducts. And in this case, what's called the bycatch, right? So what I feel is that the fishing industry was a little bit abandoned from innovation. So it hasn't really been, the target of people thinking of better ways and more efficient ways, which ultimately are more sustainable ways of doing their job. And so by planting seaweed, we really wanted to hire the fishing community to help us, because they know how to use the boats. They know how to do those really solid knots, and they know how to put buoys, and they know how the ropes will move. And so they were the people who could really help us on the ground, physically putting what is the structure, knowing how to, where would the farm be facing, so they, just like us, they study the ocean, and they really want to understand about currents and the weather, and so that the farm can be in the best place possible. And that when we're monitoring it, if we need to correct it, they can also know how to navigate with their boats and make things happen. So building the farm is with them, but monitoring it is with the scientists. So we need to know in a very laborious way, because it is a very, gradual process to know, okay, how much is the seaweed growing? In how many weeks has it grown? And so this then helps us, calculate how much carbon is actually being absorbed from the atmosphere. So what is this contribution that we all intuitively know, but exactly how much is it? So that then maybe companies, or then maybe our team, which reaches out to companies and says, hey, we have a project here, you should work with us. So Hope Zones then has to have a kind of a sales team that goes out and shares the project with people, so that people can support the works that we're doing. And then ideally, who knows, maybe in Jersey, maybe, all around Europe, across the world, these regenerative seaweed farms can and should be built by putting together scientists, fishermen, surfers, and just a passionate local community.
That is so interesting. And the next question, I don't know the answer to, and so I really hope you do. So someone was asking, in a normal farm, you harvest whatever you grow, and then you do something with it. Maybe you eat it, maybe you sell it on. Does the seaweed get harvested, or what happens to the seaweed?
That's a brilliant question. Yeah, that's a brilliant question. It's something that has really no short, immediate answer. And I asked all of our colleagues, all of our scientists, in this case, it's IPL, Instituto Politécnico Leiria, and they have a division, which is their ocean division. So this is just south of Nazaré in Peniche. And so there is not yet, let's say, a universal amount. So imagine if we plant 100% of our farm. So we have, in our case, we have at the moment 14 grow lines. So the grow lines is what is holding the seaweed. And we, maybe we could harvest half. So that was something that, but what exactly is the definition of regenerative is still, maybe we only, harvest 1/4 and leave 3/4.
Yeah.
This year, we're just going to leave all of it.
Yeah.
So as we start building this habitat, as we start building, this area where the seaweed lives, we want to leave it as much as possible, so that it can get a little bit to that size. But the fact that we are harvesting, I do think, is an important issue regarding what you're asking me about the team. So to keep the farm going, and it's not just something that is there and then it's not really untouched, we can keep asking our fishermen friends to harvest it with us. Obviously not in massive quantities, because then we would lose the whole habitat. So that's why it's such a brilliant question, because there is a balance here to be found. But by choosing a specific product that can then actually help other areas, in our case, we decided it to be a biofertilizer. So hopefully we're going to inspire people to keep planting, be it in their homes, that our size is small, so we can't really produce for agricultural purposes, but there is a movement about natural biofertilizers. And so this is, the target then of our product. And so, great question. And regenerative has to be looked into, exactly because we have to leave the vast majority of the seaweed in the water.
Yeah. Wow. And it's so funny as you said that, because I live on a small island that has for generations and generations been using the seaweed on our shoreline as a fertilizer on our field. So I'm very used to seeing that. And that's kind of like a very old school way from where I'm from. So it makes total sense. Exactly. I have one last question for you, which is, what does an average day in the life of João look like? Because it feels like you do a lot of different things.
Well, my son says that I'm on the phone a lot, but it is work. So I do have to, because ultimately I think part of my role is being able to help people connect over this common role. Yeah. And so it's understanding what each of these teams is doing and being able to keep things moving forward. So I'm not surfing every day. So this has been something that I left the World Surf League and the contest, and it has freed up my purpose to really dedicate myself, 110% to this project. But I do go to the ocean a lot. And so I still have, my jet ski. And so we go and monitor and see how the seaweed is growing. So in short, every day it tends to be a little bit different. So the average is, I'm actually calling here from Viseu. So there's a conference here for sustainable tourism. And so I think if you embrace, for the younger generation, if you embrace your passion, I think you'll have very exciting and different days, intense, but definitely different every day.
Wow, amazing. João, thank you so much for answering all those questions. I hope you have an amazing World Ocean Day. Good luck with all your work with Hope Zones Foundation and also in the surf. And for anyone who hasn't already watched our assembly, if you go back and watch the assembly, you'll get to see some of João surfing because it's in there. So go back and watch that now. João, have an amazing rest of your day. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Lindsay. It's a pleasure as always.
Bye.
Have a good one.